The tablet was already in a drawer when the scanner found it. Not on display, not marked for study, just cataloged, boxed, and shelved in the Near Eastern collection the way thousands of others had been since the 19th century. Clay fragments pulled from the ruins of Nineveh and Nippur, logged by number, wrapped in tissue, and quietly forgotten. This particular piece was part of a series called Šumma Ālu, 107 tablets total, an Akkadian divination encyclopedia used by palace scribes to interpret everyday signs, animals, weather, sounds in the street. Scholars had known about it for decades. There was nothing alarming about it. Until a translator working on a comparative edition of the series reached tablet 45 and found a word that should not have been there. The word was šakānu. In Akkadian, it means to place, to assign, to establish something in a position by deliberate act. That word appears in administrative temple records when a priest is formally appointed to a sacred role. It appears in mythological texts when a god assigns a cosmic function to another being. It is not a casual word, it is the language of purpose, of authority, of something being put somewhere because it was supposed to be there. In tablet 45, it was being used to describe a cat, not a lion, not a temple animal with a known ritual function, a house cat. And the line did not say the cat wandered in or appeared near the grain store or was found sleeping near the threshold. According to one reading of the damaged passage, contested, flagged with a question mark in a marginal note that has never been fully published, the text describes the cat as the one placed in the dwelling. No human subject performs the placing. The authority behind the verb is absent from the text entirely. To mainstream scholars, this is probably a poetic turn of phrase. Ancient writers personified animal presence. The cautious reading is almost certainly correct. But the careful reading raises a question that the official explanation does not answer. Why does a behavioral omen tablet about cats use the same administrative verb Sumerian scribes reserved for divine appointments? Here is the strange part. Cats in ancient Mesopotamia almost don't exist, not officially, not theologically. Dogs appear in temple records, in royal inscriptions, in divine imagery. Oxen, donkeys, goats, lions, all of them hold clear positions in the Sumerian symbolic world. But cats are nearly invisible. No cat deity, no temple cat cult, no major mythological role. For a civilization that documented everything from sheep transfers to the movements of the moon, the silence around cats is conspicuous. And then there is the classification problem. In Mesopotamian lexical lists, the administrative catalogs scribes use to organize the known world into categories. Cats do not sit comfortably in the domestic animal column. Despite clear evidence that they lived in homes and granaries, they were listed alongside wild animals. Every other domesticated species had a fixed classification. Dogs, domestic. Goats, domestic. Oxen, domestic. Cats were filed in a category that straddled wild and tame, as if the scribes who built these lists understood that the cat was not quite either. That ambiguity has been confirmed by multiple scholars and noted without satisfying resolution in the academic literature. No one has fully explained why the most categorized civilization in the ancient world left one of its most common household animals without a clear designation. The mainstream explanation is straightforward. Cats resemble their wild relatives too closely. The visual similarity to desert wildcats made scribes cautious about classification. That is reasonable. It may be right, but it does not explain why every other visually ambiguous animal received a firm domestic label, and cats did not. Back to tablet 45. The translator, working on the comparative edition, found šakānu a second time in the same tablet. The second instance was in a line describing the cat's gaze. The phrase, imperfectly preserved, one edge of the clay chipped away, translates roughly as the cat watching toward where the watchers stand. The word for watcher is masar. In Akkadian ritual literature, masar is not a casual term. It refers specifically to divine sentinels, guardian figures assigned to protect thresholds and sacred borders. The Apkallu, the semi-divine sages linked to the god Enki, depicted on Assyrian reliefs as fishmen and birdmen, are described using this same root when they occupy protective positions before the Great Flood. Mainstream scholars read the line as metaphor. Cats watch corners. Cats watch doorways. Ancient writers noticed this and gave it symbolic language. The official explanation is comfortable and probably correct. The problem is that the tablet places the cat at the same physical zones where Mesopotamian households buried protective figurines. The Bit Meseri ritual, a real, documented Babylonian protective ceremony, involved placing guardian figures at precise threshold locations in a home, doorways, corners, the foundations of walls. The figures stood watch at the exact points where the invisible world was believed to touch the visible one. According to Tablet 45, the cat is described behaving near those same positions, watching those same zones. To mainstream scholars, behavioral instinct, cats patrol perimeters. Of course they watch doorways, to the translator with the marginal note and the question mark. If the cat was behaving exactly like a threshold guardian, and the text describing that behavior uses guardian language, why does the official edition translate the passage as ordinary superstition? That question became harder to ignore when a third anomaly appeared in Tablet 45, this one deeper in the clay, in a section more badly damaged than the rest. A single line containing a star determinative. In cuneiform, the star sign marks celestial objects, it appears, before star names, planet names, and references to divine heavenly bodies. It has no business appearing in a behavioral omen about domestic animals. But there it is, adjacent to the Akkadian word for cat, in a line that cannot be fully read because part of the tablet's surface is gone. Multiple scholars have proposed restorations for the missing section. One of those proposals, disputed, not confirmed, connects the determinative to Kakab Kalbu, the dog star, the star modern astronomy calls Sirius. That connection, if accurate, would mean a pest control tablet contained an astronomical anchor, and Sirius is not a neutral choice. In Sumerian astronomical records, Sirius marked the onset of flood season. Its heliacal rising the moment it reappeared in the pre-dawn sky after weeks of absence was a signal that the Tigris and Euphrates were about to swell. More than that, in some scholarly analyses of Sumerian cylinder seals and the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature, the star Sirius has been linked specifically to Inanna, the goddess of love and war, who is also described as the lioness of heaven. The connection between Inanna and Sirius has been traced in the academic literature through iconographic analysis. It is not a fringe claim, and the flood in Sumerian mythology is where the Apkallu come from, the 7 sages sent by Enki before the great deluge. The Watchers, the figures described using the same root word masar that appears in Tablet 45, describing the direction a cat watches. The story should have stayed inside one tablet. Instead, it widened, because the domestication of cats is its own unsolved problem, and the science makes it stranger, not simpler. Domestic cats descend from a single wild ancestor, Felis sylvestris libica, the Near Eastern wildcat, native to the Fertile Crescent. Geneticists studying ancient cat DNA have confirmed this without ambiguity. The 2017 study by Claudio Ottoni and colleagues at the University of Rome traced two waves of domestication, one beginning around 10,000 years ago in the Near East, and one occurring later in Egypt. The origin point of the first wave overlaps precisely with early Sumerian civilization. Here is the part the genetics papers note without fully resolving. Wildcats are solitary, territorial. They form no packs, no hierarchies, no social structures that would make them responsive to human selection pressure in the way dogs or goats were. Biologists describe them in their own published language as poor candidates for domestication, yet Felis sylvestris libica is the only member of the entire cat family out of 37 living species that was ever domesticated. Not the cheetah, despite thousands of years of captive use in royal courts. Not the serval, not the fishing cat. Only this one subspecies from this one region at this one moment in the early Neolithic, and no one has produced a fully satisfying behavioral explanation for how a non-social, territorial predator became tolerant of human proximity without deliberate selective breeding. The oldest known deliberate cat-human burial is in Cyprus, dated to approximately 9,500 BCE. A cat and a human interred together with apparent ceremony. Cyprus had no native cats. The animal was brought there, before Egypt, before the first Sumerian city, before any written record that might explain why someone carried a cat onto a boat and buried it with a person when they died. To mainstream archaeologists, practical rodent control. Cats were useful. People transported useful things. That explanation works. But it does not explain the ceremony, and it does not explain why the culture at the genetic origin point of cat domestication, the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of Sumer, produced almost no theological record of the cat, while Egypt, a neighboring civilization, built an entire sacred tradition around it. Bastet, temple cults, mummification on an industrial scale, thousands of cat offerings, the same animal across the same region, generating radically different cultural responses. Scholarly literature acknowledges this asymmetry and does not fully account for it. One reading, not the mainstream one, is that Sumer did not need to mythologize the cat because Sumer understood what the cat was. Not as a religious symbol, but as something more specific. Something that didn't need a temple cult because its function was already documented in an administrative omen series, in a verb, in a word that meant placed. The full picture of tablet 45 cannot yet be read because the tablet is not in one place. Fragments associated with the Šumma Ālu cat sequence were separated during 19th century excavations and distributed across multiple institutional collections. The critical marginal notation flagging the šakānu passage has been cited in recent academic papers, but not reproduced in full in any publicly accessible edition. Digitization projects working through the Mesopotamian cuneiform archive have noted the cat tablet sequence as awaiting complete collation. No one suppressed it. There are no dramatic missing files. The tablet is fragile. The archives are large. These things take time. But the effect is the same. The one document that might clarify whether the placement language in tablet 45 is poetic or technical cannot be fully read because its pieces are in 3 different institutions in 3 different countries, and the complete text has never appeared in one published edition, and what the complete text might say is becoming newly relevant because the tools to read it now exist. AI-assisted transliteration of cuneiform trained on tens of thousands of Sumerian and Akkadian tablets, can now reconstruct damaged clay sequences with accuracy rates that were impossible a decade ago. The Šumma Ālu series is among the texts being processed. When the fragmented cat sequence is finally assembled and scanned in full, the šakānu passage will be readable in complete context for the first time. There is also the question of Sirius B, the white dwarf companion to Sirius that was not confirmed by modern science until 1862, when telescopes became powerful enough to resolve it. It is invisible to the naked eye. But detailed ancient references to the Sirius system's behavior, its brightness cycle, and its calendrical significance appear in both Sumerian and Egyptian records. The most contested version of this puzzle involves the Dogon people of Mali, whose traditional astronomical knowledge of the Sirius system, including a companion star, became the subject of serious academic debate after anthropologist Marcel Griol published his findings in the mid-20th century. Mainstream scholars dispute the interpretation. The origin of that knowledge has never been explained to universal satisfaction. The cat cluster and the Sirius cluster overlap. Cat, flood, Sirius, divine watchers, assigned purpose. That grouping appears in Sumer, in Egypt, and in disputed traditions from West Africa. Three separate cultural contexts, one recurring set of associations. Mainstream archaeology calls this parallel mythology. The alternative reading, more troubling, less provable, is that parallel mythology sometimes means parallel memory, that different cultures preserve the same original event through different symbolic languages, and that the animal at the center of each version of the story is always the same. Return to the tablet. Pale clay, chipped edge, storage drawer, scanner off. If the šakānu passage is only poetry, the tablet is what it was always classified as, a behavioral omen compendium, useful for understanding ancient superstition, unremarkable in every other respect. If the marginal notation and the administrative language and the threshold guardian phrasing and the star determinative all resolve into coincidence, then the official reading stands, and the mystery is the product of pattern seeking in damaged clay. But here is what the official reading does not account for. Why a wildcat with no social instinct became the only member of its entire biological family to accept human proximity. Why the culture at the origin point of that process left the animal almost entirely out of its religious record. Why a behavioral omen tablet uses divine assignment language to describe its presence. Why that same tablet contains, in a damaged line, what may be a reference to the flood season star. Why the same cluster of associations, cat, flood, watchers, Sirius, reappears independently in a civilization that never had contact with Sumer. Mainstream scholars are right to be careful. The line is damaged. The star reference is disputed. The verb may be poetic. None of this proves anything. That is the honest position. But the cat is still in the doorway, still watching the corner, still occupying the threshold zone, still doing in homes across the world exactly what the divine guardians of ancient Mesopotamia were assigned to do, in exactly the places where those guardians were supposed to stand. The tablet doesn't confirm that. It doesn't need to. The cat was placed there long before the tablet was written. The tablet just might be the only record left of who gave the order, and that part of the clay is still missing.